come away from brushing our knee, come away from parting of the wild horse's mane, and we're going to tackle one more before we go back to repulsing of the monkey. The one more I think you might enjoy also. It can be one of the prettiest, okay? It's called grasping of the bird's tail. So you know the tail of a bird is not heavy, it's light, and so it kind of follows into Tai Chi in that you don't need much strength, but you need your body to move to bring down the bird's tail. But it's disguised because Tai Chi is a martial arts discipline, so you're actually bringing down your opponent. But it's set in a graceful imagery. We pull down the bird's tail or we grasp the bird's tail. Grasping of the bird's tail is the name of the movement. However, there are two components to it. The first component is that we have to ward off our opponent. We use our forearm and we push him away. Then we turn our hips and waists and we grasp the bird's tail and we pull down the bird's tail, as if we're pulling down the opponent. And then this one might be a forceful one where we're pushing him away. We're rolling him back and we're pushing him down. And yet, one more time, we're pushing him out. The other side looks the same. We are on a T stance. We're centered with a ball. We come out on an L stance. The bottom hand forearms the opponent. We turn our hips and waists. We reposition our hands. We grasp the bird's tail by pulling down, sitting down, turning at the hips and waists, contacting, turning at the hips and waists, pushing the energy through the middle of our body, separating our energy and rolling back, pushing our opponent down, sitting down, spiraling up and lunging forward. Okay, let's try that, okay? Let's go a little slowly, but you remember that when we go slowly, it's a little harder, okay? On a T stance, left foot is ready to go, so left hand is on the bottom because the left hand has to advance, okay? The left hand has to advance. The right hand is on the top. We're holding our ball. We're gonna first learn how to grasp the bird's tail, but the two components are first to ward off our opponent using your forearm, okay? And that's the bottom left hand. T stance, L stance. Bottom hand advances, ward off by forearming your opponent. Turn your hips and waists, and the hands look like this, staggered but sort of palm to palm. Now you're gonna pull down, pull back. Use your hips and waists to look back. You're gonna contact by your wrist. The right hand is on the wrist of the left, turning our hips and waists, moving that energy, pushing the energy through, separating our hands, rolling back and sitting down, spiraling up and lunging forward on a bow stance. We have to do the other side now. Sit back, sit down, twist step. Left hand stays on the top, right hand on the bottom, holding your ball. T stance. What are we gonna do? The name of the movement is called grasping of the bird's tail. The first component is to ward off your opponent. The bottom hand advances. Right foot ready to go, right hand ready to go on an L stance. T stance, L stance. Bottom hand advances, wards off or forearms your opponent. Turns the hips and waists, reposition your hands so that they're staggered and palm to palm. You're gonna grasp the bird's tail. Sit down, sit back, turn at the hips and waists to look back. Contact at your wrist, turn at the hips and waists, push the energy through the middle of your body, separate the hands, roll back and sit down, and spiral up. Twist step, T stance, ward off. L stance, forearm your opponent. Turn your hips and waists, grasp the bird's tail. Use your hips and waists to look back. Contact, use the hips and waists to touch and push through. Separate and roll back and sit down. spiral up, and lunge forward. Twist step. T stance, holding your ball. We're going to grasp the bird's tail, but first ward off. L stance, bottom hand, forearms our opponent. Turn the hips and waist, reposition your hands, grasp the bird's tail. Contact, turn of the hips and waist, push the energy out, sit back, sit down, spiral up, lunge forward. Twist step. P stance, hold your ball. L stance, ward off. Turn the hips and waist, grasp the bird's tail. Contact, turn, push, separate, roll back, sit down, spiral up, lunge forward. Twist step. T stance. L stance, ward off. Turn hips and waist, grasp the bird's tail. Look back, contact, turn at the hips and waist, center of the body, push the energy through, separate the hands and roll back and sit down, and spiral up and lunge forward. Twist step. Okay, stop. You stop and watch now, okay? T stance, L stance, O stance. Turn hips and waist, grasp the bird's tail. Contact, turn again, push from the center, energy out, energy back, energy up, energy out. Twist, T, L, ward off. Turn hips and waist, grasp the bird's tail. Contact, turn, push energy from the middle of the body, roll back, sit down, spiral up, lunge forward. So you can almost generalize to say that if the hands are set up correctly, they just sit there and they just move with whatever T stance, L stance, bow stance, sit back, sit down with you. You don't have to do anything extra for your hands in a general way. So if you know your feet positions really, really well, and there's always that pattern, then if you study your upper body and you say, I know how to set it up, I know what the movement is, it's brush knee, or it's grasping the bird's tail, or it's warding off. All you have to do is set it up, and your body will then take your hands for where it should go, okay? So that maybe seems like to you maybe not so true, but slowly you will understand what I'm trying to say, okay? All right, this is how we do grasping of the bird's tail. Out and to the side, first ward off your opponent. Push him away using your core. So if I didn't know that and I would use my hands, I would just use my hand to push him away. That's not going to work. It's not going to work. We need to use our core. That's why Tai Chi will strengthen your core. That's why it'll prevent your accidents from happening, but no guarantee. So there's something going on in my core and not just a hand motion, okay? It's something that's tightening up and powering my forearming of, or warding him off. I use my hips and waist. My hands don't have to worry. All I need to do is reposition my hand. Now, how am I going to get my hands back there? I need to get back here. But how am I going to power it? I'm going to use my core by sitting down, sitting back, turning my hips and waist. I contact. How do I get back to the front? Just push it here? No. We have hips and waist that turn and pushes our energy through. We roll back, and how do my hands come down? Do I just bring them down? No. I sit down. How do we get back up? I come up, I lunge forward. Twist step, T stance, centered myself, thinking it through. How am I going to ward off? I'm in a T, I need to get into an L. Bottom hand advances. How am I going to push him away? Where is that power? Coming from my core. How am I going to get my hands there to grasp the bird's tail? I turn my hips and waist. Then I join my hand, staggered my hand, palm to palm, but staggered. I want to get back there. How? I sit down, sit back. I turn my hips and waist. Eye contact. What do I do now? Turn the hips and waist, push the energy through, separate the energy and roll back and sit down. My hands go for the ride. How do they get back up? I bring my sitting down into a better position, okay? So it looks like, yeah, well, you can do it, but you've been doing it for a long time. I know, but you will do it for over a period of time, and it will get better. And the nice part about it is that you will be gaining health benefits, not just mind being active, but the core being stronger, knowing more about your body and what you can do to help it to get to that movement, realizing, yes, I'm having a little trouble processing it, but nothing comes easy. If you are aware of something that is a deficit and you feel that you want to overcome it, then what do? You go continue to practice till you overcome that. And that is beauty in itself. That's strength, that's power. But are you going to wait around for somebody else to tell you to do that and do it for you? No. So you are empowering yourself by doing Tai Chi, okay? So every week I come and every week I know what you're doing, or I see the improvement. The people that I don't really see, I see it in the camera view when I'm editing. And I can see where I need to teach, shore up the little weak areas, but I do see progress. But you can't compare your progress to others that you see, even to me, okay? Because you're on your own journey. I was there too, okay? Everybody has a time when they have to struggle and be challenged. That's part of learning. And it becomes more powerful once you are successful in reaching that movement. But remember now, we don't jump from 0% accomplishment all the way to even 90%. We just go in little increments, because this is a journey over a lifetime. But the more that you do, the more that the more complicated movements can be tackled and understood, because Tai Chi's movements are not just isolated. They are looped together with the same types of discipline of the core and the movement of the patterning of the feet, okay? Over time, you will get stronger in your limbs, in your arms, in your legs, and so you'll be able to take the slowness and understand the pacing a little bit more, okay? So these are all things that we're working towards even for us.